Hello everyone, my name is Asyrafchazz and welcome back to yet another One Piece card game video. So we've talked about the red cards, we've talked about the green cards. Now we're going to talk about the blue cards from OP-02. Now that the full list is officially out, you can take a look at the cards at the link in the description below where you can take a look at all of them with English translation as well. So there you go. But we're going to take a look at all of the blue cards and see what are good, what are bad, what we'll see coming up in the metagame, and what cards we can potentially look out for in the future. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribing if you want to keep up to date with more One Piece card game content. Now I'll be trying to open my first few boxes on Friday itself, on November 4th, and hopefully do a live stream on the evening of November 4th, provided I can get my hands on some product, because there have been talks about some allocation issues, especially for this set, so we have to wait and see. So without further ado, let's talk about all the blue cards coming from OP-02, the Paramount War. Alright, so we talked about green in the previous video. Now we are going into the blue cards, starting with the leader, Emporio Ivankov, 5000 power, 5 life. Now we talked about all the leaders in depth in a previous video, so you can check it out if you want to. Link will be in the description below. But essentially, at the end of your turn, if you have 0 cards in your hand, draw 2 cards. Now I have not been really loving Ivankov's effect, because as a player you do want cards in your hand, but I am seeing it in a wrong way. I think at the late game this card will actually be quite good, because you're constantly drawing at least 2 cards in your hand, and there are other cards that kind of work well with a low hand count number, which we'll talk about later on. So Ivankov could be an interesting leader for sure. Next up, we got Inazuma, one of the cards that work well with Ivankov's ability. 4 cost, 5000 power with the Slasher attribute with counter 1000, part of the Impel Down and Revolutionary Army. If you have 1 or less cards in your hand, this character gains plus 2000 power, so that's good. And it has blocker, so at the late game you can use it up for defenses. If you have 1 or less cards in your hand, this can gain up to like 2000 power, so it's a 4 cost 7000 power blocker, provided because Ivankov drops you down to like 0 and then draws you 2 cards. So as long as you have like 1 or less, then this effect will proc, so that's quite good. If not, it's quite good as an attacker as well, because you can attack for 7k. I like it. I like Inazuma. Next up, we got Ivankov. We got the main card, Ivankov, 7 cost, 7000 power with the special attribute, part of the Impel Down, Revolutionary Army. Now we've talked about these cards more in depth, but just to kind of reiterate what I said, on play, draw cards until you have 3 cards in your hand, then play up to 1 blue Impel Down type character card with a cost of 6 or less from your hand. This works well with the super rare Luffy from OP-02, which we'll talk about when we take a look at it later on, and it's great. You can even use it to drop down Inazuma to have a blocker on the field. So Ivankov definitely really quite good. And you don't necessarily have to use Ivankov as a leader. You can replace it with any blue based leader that could work with an Impel Down strategy. That's what I think. So this is a good card. Alright, next up we have Kabaji, 2 cost, 3000 power, the Slash attribute with counter 1000, part of the Buggy Pirates. And on play, if you have Moji, draw 2 cards and trash 1 card from your hand. So it's a situational card draw. Not really feeling it unless there's a whole Buggy strategy that utilizes these cards. Anything that requires another card to be on the field, it's very situational, and on its own it's not really that good. So it's a card for me. Speaking of which, there's a lot of the Shichibukai cards, or at least former Shichibukai in Crocodile's case, that are just vanillas, which have great art. Not gonna lie, but they're just vanillas. So first up is Crocodile, 5 cost, 7000 power vanilla with special attribute with counter 1000, part of Impel Down and former Baroque Works. So make it as you will. I think the art looks damn good. Then next up we got Gecko Moria, 4 cost, 6000 power with the special attribute with counter 1000, part of the 7 Warlords of the Sea and Thriller Bark Pirates. I love the artwork on this one. Too bad it's a vanilla, but even though this card is a vanilla, he still works really well with OP-01's Doflamingo leader, because you can target this card with a Doflamingo's effect and just have a 4 cost 6000 power beater on your side of the field. I think this is gonna be seen, and there might be cases where Doflamingo will play Gecko Moria. I think that will definitely happen. Then next up we've got Mihawk apps as usual. 6 cost, 8,000 power with the slasher attribute with counter 1000. Part of the 7 Warlords of the Sea. Now can't be targeted by Doflamingo, but it's a 6 cost, 8,000 powered vanilla beater. What more do you want? Great artwork on this one as well. Always got to show off the Mihawk apps. Let's move on. Next up, we got Don Quixote Doflamingo, 1 cost, 2,000 power with the special attribute. Part of the 7 Warlords of the Sea and Don Quixote Pirates. So this is definitely a card that's going to be seeing play in future Doflamingo decks, maybe. On play, look at the top 3 cards of your deck and place them at the bottom, top or the bottom of the deck in any order. So, you know, we've already seen card effects like this before, and it's, you know, definitely going to see some play. But here's the second ability of Don 1. When attacking, you may trash 1 card from your hand and place up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. So in a situation like this that you need to get rid of your opponent's, you know, 1 cost blockers maybe, or even a 1 cost searcher, then sure, I can see even Doflamingo putting in some work. You have to discard a card from your hand, but I think this is a good upgrade to Doflamingo decks that have already been existing in the metagame. So excited, you know, good for you Doflamingo players. And this is for you, Noah, right? This is a Noah card right here. Alright, next up we got Bartholomew Kuma, a 3 cost, 3,000 power with the striker attribute with counter 1000, part of the 7 Warlords of the Sea and Revolutionary Army. And his ability is on play, look at the 2 cards from the top of your deck, then reveal up to 1 7 Warlords of the Sea type card and add it to your hand, and place the rest at the top or bottom of the deck in any order. So essentially you can drop down Kuma or use Kuma's ability of a Doflamingo activation, and then you look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You can reveal a Shichibukai card, put it into your hand, and if the other one, you can just put it at top if you feel like you can use it with Doflamingo's ability, or you can just ship it to the bottom. I think this card is good. Not sure how many of these will be playing because it is only 3,000 power at a 3 cost kind of stat line. So at a baseline level, it's not really that great, but the effect I think is quite decent to warrant to see some play. Alright, next up we have Buggy himself, 1 cost, 2,000 power, the slasher attribute with counter 1000, part of the Impel Down and Buggy Pirates. And his ability is on play, look at the top 5 cards at the top of your deck and reveal up to 1 blue Impel Down other than Buggy and add it to your hand. Then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. So this is your 1 cost searcher for any Impel Down type strategies, and definitely will see some play. I mean, it's a searcher, works well with Ivankov, Impel Down. That's great. Get a place out of this card for sure. Alright, next up we have Boa Hancock, another Boa card. Unfortunately, this card does not have an alternate art, but it does come in the box topper, which we've talked about. 4 cost, 5,000 power with a special attribute with counter 1000, part of Impel Down, 7 Warlords of the Sea and the Kuja Pirates. And when attacking, draw a card and trash 1 card from your hand, then trash up the 3 cards from your hand. If you ever feel the need to trash up the 3 cards from your hand, sure, Boa Hancock will be quite good, but draw 1, discard 1, I think that's quite good. I mean, it's like filtering through the deck, right? And you can search it off Buggy as well, or you can use it, you can search it off Doflamingo and have it on the field. So, you know, could work in different ways. I think Hancock is definitely a decent card for sure. The discard up to 3 cards from your hand, that's like, you know, in a case that you need to get a low hand count, you can do that, but I would highly advise you to not utilize that ability unless it's necessary, you know. Next up we got Moji, 1 cost, 3,000 power with the wisdom attribute with counter 1000. This is your 1 cost, 3,000 vanilla, part of the Buggy Pirates. Works well with the card that we've talked about before, so, you know, not really that great. Moving on. Next up we have Morley, 4 cost, 5,000 power with this special attribute with counter 1000, part of the Giant and Revolutionary Army. Also a card that I did not expect to see in this set, but okay. When attacking, if you have 1 or less cards in your hand, your opponent cannot activate the blocker of any character with a cost of 5 or less during this battle. So this is in that instance if you want to use Boa Hancock's ability to drop your hand count down to like 1 or less, then it works well with Morley, right? I think Morley's quite good, especially when you're using like Ivankov anyway and you're like getting to a low hand count. The fact that your opponent cannot block this guy is kind of good. I mean, we've seen, or at least blockers of 5 or less cost cannot block this guy. I think it's quite good. I mean, we've seen how well unblockable things are in like Luffy decks, so Molly is pretty cool. Alright, next up we got Monkey D. Luffy himself, our 6 cost 7000 power striker attribute, super rare from OP-02, part of the Impel Down and Straw Hat crew. And his ability is on play and when attacking, you may trash 2 cards from your hand, return up to 1 character with a cost of 4 or less to the owner's hand, and then this character gains double attack during this turn. So in a case that you want to return your opponent's blockers or threats, as long as it's 4 or less, back to your opponent's hand, you can play it when you play Monkey D. Luffy, or you're going in for a big attack and you want to get in that double attack, you can just trash 2 cards from your hand, get rid of one of your opponent's blockers, and then there you go. So I think Luffy, definitely really quite useful. This is why Ivankov is such a good leader, because it works well with these kind of effects that lets you discard cards from your hand. And in the future, if we can have cards that can recur cards from the graveyard, similar to like Gecko Moria, but for Impel Down specific cards, then I think the deck will be more complete. But then again, Luffy is great, the alternate art looks great. I think it's gonna be a good card, and definitely if you plan to play Ivankov, you need to get Monkey D. Luffy for sure. Next up, we got Mr. 1 with that cool artwork. We got Das Bones, 1 cost 1000 power with the slasher attribute with counter 1000, part of the Impel Down and former Baroque Works. And his ability is on play, add up to 1 blue event card with a cost of 1 from your trash to your hand. So, you know, recurring back your event cards to your hand doesn't work well with his OP-01 counterpart that wants event cards in your trash. But you know what, this is for a different type of deck. But I think it will be quite good if you want to recur some of your event cards, which blue has a few event cards I will talk about in a bit that is actually really quite good, and it costs like 1 or lower, which we'll talk about soon. So that's Bones as a utility card, pretty good as well. Next up, we got Mr. 2, Mr. Bond Clay himself, the MVP and the GOAT of Impel Down. I hope he gets an alternate art for sure. 5 cost 5000 power with the striker attribute with counter 2000. So there you go, that's quite good. We've talked about this card before. Its ability is Dawn 1. When attacking, you may trash 1 card from your hand, place up to 1 character with a cost of 2 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. Then at the end of the battle, place this character at the bottom of the owner's deck. So in the case where you want to go for that final punch through and get rid of your opponent's like 2 costs or below blocker, and then make sure they don't have any blockers on the field, then this card can get his attack in and then send his way back to the bottom of the deck. You know, he's sacrificing himself just like in the show, and then making way for your other characters like the 6 cost Luffy that we've seen to go in for the kill. I think this card's good. I quite like it. And it has counter 1000, so definitely we'll see some play. It's just you need to kind of find the right timing, because if you are just getting rid of a 2 cost or lower character card at the cost of like a 5 cost 5000 powered attacker, then it has to be like at the right timing, right? I mean, at the end, you know, like when you're going for the kill in the late game, just as Bonchan intended. Right, next up we got Mr. 3, Mr. Galdino himself, 4 cost 5000 power with the counter 1000 with blocker, and at the end of your turn you may trash 1 card from your hand, set this character as active. So you can use it to attack, discard a card from your hand, bring it back to active to do blocking duties. So I think Mr. 3 is good, so let's move on. Alright, now we're going into the event cards. So first of all, Impel Down All Stars. It's so great to see all of them together. 1 cost event card with an effect of you may trash 2 cards from your hand. Then if your leader has the Impel Down type, drop 2 cards. Its trigger ability is draw 2 cards. So, you know, getting rid of 2 cards that you don't need and then drawing 2 cards that you might possibly need could be good. I'm just not sure if this card is great enough to be including in the Ivankov deck. I mean, you have to discard 2 to draw 2. You know, it's like, I don't know if this card is good or not. I think it's not, unless there are benefits to having cards in the graveyard. Maybe then yes, in that case for sure, but if not, I'm not seeing the value of it. Maybe if you have like the OP-01 Mr. 1, that could be cool, because he does want cards in the trash, and especially like events, but we don't really see much of him in play in the metagame as well. So There you go. Alright, next up we have Arabesque Brick Fist, a 2-cost event card, part of the Fishman and Impel Down, and the ability is main, return up to 1 character with a cost of 4 or less to the owner's hand, and the triggered ability is to activate this card's main effect. So if you want to be annoying, if you want to have a crocodile-like ability for only 2 costs, this is a great card for you. Great tempo card, I think. And I do think that this card might potentially see some play because you can get rid of some blockers, you can get rid of some problematic threats that you don't want to deal with. For only 2 costs, just return it back to the hand, return your Okikus back to the hand, return like the Uta blockers back to the hand. You don't have to worry about it, so there you go. Next up, we got Gomu Gomu no Rain, a 0-cost event card with counter. You may trash 1 card from your hand up to 1 of your leader or character cards, gain plus 3000 power during this battle. And the triggered ability is return up to 1 character with a cost of 2 or less to the owner's hand. So the counter ability will make for really good like mind games thing. Like you gotta bluff your way through every event from now on. You tap out all your dawns, you got 0 dawn open, you like, I have a Gomu Gomu no Rain in my hand. You just gotta bluff your way through. If you're playing Ivankov, if you're playing any blue deck for that matter, this will be a good card. It just needs you to use this and discard 1 card from your hand, and then you gain 3000. So a good kind of like mind game bluff card in my opinion, and the trigger ability is not that bad as well. Next up, we have Death Wink, a 3-cost event card with counter. Up to 1 of your leader or character cards gain plus 6000 power during this battle. Then draw cards, so you have 2 cards in your hand. In the event that your Ivankov have like 0 cards or like 1 card, then this might be quite useful. Then the trigger ability is return up to 1 character with cost of 7 or less to the owner's hand. So that trigger ability kind of strong. I mean, 7 is a substantial amount. But if you are Ivankov anyway and you have like 1 card and this card, and the 1 card that you have in your hand is this, and you have 3 dawn open, sure, why not, right? But having to leave 3 dawn up for this card is a big ask in my opinion. I think might be possible. I'm not saying that it's impossible. It might be possible. Just it's a big ask for 3 dawn. It's not like Sanji where you get dawns back. You want to be extending plays. This card is a big ask, and you know that if you're Ivankov anyway, you have to kind of be lucky to even draw this off of ability if you have 0 cards in your hand at the end of the turn. So you know, you gotta see. I'm not really sure on this card just yet, but I might be proven wrong. Alright, next up is another stage card, yet in blue. This is New Karma Land, a 1-cost stage card with an effect of activate main. You may rest this stage card. If your leader is Emporio Ivankov, draw 1 card, then trash 1 card from your hand, then trash up to 3 cards from your hand. So I think the draw 1, trash 1 is quite good. The trash up to 3 is situational, but having an option to, you know, have that ability to draw 1, discard 1 is quite good. And it's a 1-cost stage card, so not really asking a lot out of you. Just have it on your field and then that's it. And there you go, every single blue card from OP-02. Let me know what you think. I think the Ivankov deck is going to be very interesting to say the least. I would just need to see how the final list might look like, whether it's going to be one of the mainstay decks. At least I don't know. I don't see it becoming an S tier deck anytime soon. I still think like other decks are stronger, but I think this is a definite fun deck to play. And if you really like Ivankov as character, why not play it, right? Anyway, that's it for me for today. We're gonna talk about the black as well as the purple cards in the next few videos. If you want to check out the other colors, a link will be in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.